Read the headline. General Petraeus or General Betray Us? Some are very unhappy with this, including my next guest. Peter Hegseth is the Executive Director of Veterans for Freedom and an Iraq War veteran. Peter, thanks so much for being here with us.
Thanks, Megan.
I want to point out to our viewers that we extended the invitation to MoveOn.org to come in and explain itself on this ad. They declined to be with us. Peter, let me ask you just straight out. You're an Iraq War veteran. You fought over there. Why do you think that? Why do you have a problem with the ad?
Well, it doesn't surprise me that MoveOn doesn't want to come out and talk about it. I have a problem with it because the day our American general, who's leading our forces in a war zone, comes back to provide an assessment about how things are going, this group has the audacity to come out and declare that he's a traitor, that he's betrayed us. There is no one more informed than General David Petraeus to come back and tell us how things are going in Iraq. And it really troubles me and troubles veterans everywhere to hear that that this group is slandering General Petraeus the day that he's coming to report to our Congress.
Yeah, you know, Pete, do you see this as an attack on not just the general, but on the troops on the ground in Iraq?
I mean, how can it not be? You know, General Petraeus doesn't create this report in a void. He's got, commanders, division commanders, brigade commanders, others providing him their assessments of what's going on the ground. And based on that, he's going to come to Congress and say, this is what's happening comprehensively throughout the country. So what MoveOn.org is essentially saying is that the entire military establishment is a bunch of liars and they're trying to betray the country, when in actuality, if you look at the facts on the ground, the surge is working, security is improving, and General David Petraeus is going to say just that today.
Pete, let me ask you about some of the comments that lawmakers on Capitol Hill have made, specifically some Democrats, which we have here. Harry Reid, who's of course the Democratic leader in the Senate, said specifically of General Petraeus that he made a number of statements over the years that have not proven to be factual. This from Harry Reid about General Petraeus. Then Rahm Emanuel, the #2 Democrat in the House, said that this report could win the Nobel Prize for Creative Statistics or the Pulitzer Prize for Fiction. What's your view as somebody who's been boots on the ground in Iraq on those comments?
Well, Megan, first of all, Harry Reid voted with 80 other members of the Senate to unanimously confirm General Petraeus when he came before. So if they had reservations about whether he was a truth teller or not, why didn't they vote that way on the floor of the Congress? So I take a lot of issue with the fact that they're trying to slander our general. But I got an email this morning from a guy out in Anbar Province who's eating breakfast and reads about the fact that the New York Times is calling his general a traitor, and he was extremely offended. Said, "Thank you for taking on MoveOn." See, MoveOn, what they do is they make everything political. If what General David Petraeus doesn't jive with what they want to do politically, then they will do anything they can, including personal attacks against the general in theater, to undermine him, and it's very, very unfortunate.
Peter, stand by with me for just 1 minute, because we are just getting breaking news that the White House has now issued a statement in response to this ad, which is pretty unusual, and our White House correspondent Wendell Goler's got that live for us. Stay with us, Peter, while we check in with Wendell. Hi, Wendell.
Hi, Megan. Well, the president had asked lawmakers to wait until General Petraeus and Ambassador Crocker made their report before making up their own minds about whether or not the surge is working. And the fact that lawmakers, some of them, don't seem inclined to wait is allowing the folks here to attack what they call a preemptive attempt to undercut the report and to suggest that the Democrats' criticism really doesn't mean much because it isn't based on facts. Press Secretary Tony Snow, in an off-camera briefing just concluded a short while ago, called the MoveOn.org ad in the New York Times today boorish and childish and unworthy. He said if members of Congress want to get to the high side of this, they ought to condemn it. Now, Democrats point out that Petraeus is evaluating his own performance. They say that 3 years ago he said that he had seen significant tangible progress in rebuilding Iraq's security forces. Snow said lawmakers can be skeptical about Petraeus' report, but they ought to be, in his words, fair-minded. The White House well aware that polls show that Americans are discouraged about the president's handling of the war in Iraq, but the folks here also know that the polls show even less confidence in Congress's ability to deal with the war in Iraq. Megan?
Wendell Goler, thanks so much for that update. Peter, let's go back to you, my guest now. I want to ask you, your feeling about whether this guy can get a fair shake today, because our viewers may not realize the reason General Petraeus is going on Capitol Hill today is because the Democrats back in May mandated this. They wanted to hear from him. They wanted to report on how things were going. Of course, back in May, the situation was far more bleak than it is today. That was before the troop surge had begun to work. Now they've got a guy who's going to go and report the progress, and we are told that he will report that there has indeed been some progress. They apparently don't appear to be getting the message that some of them expected. Pete, do you think that they are basically attacking the messenger because they don't like the message?
Absolutely. They're attacking the messenger because they don't like the message. One Democratic senator was quoted in the Politico on Friday as saying, we can't call David Petraeus a liar on national TV. We expect outside groups to do that for us. So there are a number of Democratic senators in Congress that are invested in defeat. They're invested in the fact that things must get worse in Iraq. And we're, as veterans of the Iraq War, calling on these members of Congress to denounce this Move On ad, to denounce the fact that they have called our commander in the field a traitor. It's absolutely despicable, and we applaud guys like Representative Brian Barrett, a Democrat from Washington, who came back from Iraq, had nothing politically to gain from saying things are working, and he did, and that's nothing short of political courage, and we applaud guys like that.
Indeed. Pete Hegseth, thanks so much for being here with us and for your service to our country.
Thank you, Megan.
And a Fox News exclusive tonight, General David Petraeus and Ambassador Ryan Crocker, he's the man basically overseeing the political reforms over there, will sit down with Brit Hume